government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
The best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, from Charlotte, another line going from in Florida down to Tampa of Putin's kleptocracy. Yeah. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to the idea that Los Angeles and what am I doing here? For two reasons. One, I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure. Let's be clear. I hear it all the time. Cumulative deficit, I can pay for the programs many times over. Well, I'm sick and tired of smart guys. Let me start off with two words. Made in America. Made in America.
Welcome back to another night of Shtick with Koolfrogg. Such a long day. I really didn't get a lot of time to do a lot of research for tonight, so it might be a short night. We'll see what actually happens. I do have some stuff to speak of. It should be interesting, should be fun. Let me say hi to everybody real quick that's around. Looks like beautifully inappropriate. Says, hey, I'll be watching from the TV. Sounds good. Awesome. Suzanne, how you doing there? Good to see you. Keith Gregory. Awesome. Glad you're here. Glad y'all here. Share this out to all those places that you'd like to share things to. Let your friends know where you're hanging out and have them come join us and create some kind of conversation as we actually go through some news and politics through the night. It was brought to my attention last night as I was actually doing show that there was a bridge that goes from both the Kerch region or whatever that actually crosses over to Crimea that had actually been bombed yet one more time. It seems as though they can't get past the fact of this particular bridge connecting Russia to to Crimea. The interesting on that is when you actually look at the bridge that's actually connecting the two, it's a fairly lengthy bridge. Why they keep on attacking it over and over again is kind of crazy in itself. Let's see if I got an article here. Here it is. Let's kind of widen that out just a touch. All right. So, anybody that's over on that Rumble side, say hi. I'll totally talk to you. Hit those thumbs up buttons, like buttons, do all those things while we go through all this. So it says Ukraine war. Vladimir Putin vows response after terrorist attack on Crimea bridge. I mean, I would doubt that Russia would actually take out their own bridge. I really do. It doesn't make any sense that they would take out the bridge that actually goes from Russia to Crimea, the territory that they've claimed since 2014. It to me sounds like it would be something that Ukraine might actually have interest in actually, blowing up so that way they didn't actually have the access that Russia needs to actually access that area. And you can see there's quite a bit of damage to it. They're actually giving it a time frame for repair. So it says Vladimir Putin has vowed to retaliate following the terrorist attack on the bridge linking Crimea to Russia. Moscow had blamed Ukraine for the incident, which left 2 people dead, while Kyiv was not officially said it was responsible. Of course they're not going to officially say they're responsible because they don't even probably know if they're responsible. As you know, it could be a multitude of different places that have actually went through and it actually did this attack. Whether it be Russia or Ukraine or even just NATO and themselves thinking that they're actually going to help the situation by actually hitting it yet one more time. The Kerch Bridge is opened in 2018 and enables road and rail travel between Russia and Crimea, Ukrainian territory annexed by Russia in 2014. So it's still, I don't get the territory being labeled as Ukrainian and then annexed by Russia. I mean, I get it, but yet I don't. It doesn't really make all that much sense to actually put it to the point that it just so happens to be that I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense. Wait a minute. Darth Hideous. Hello. I'm not seeing you. I'm not actually seeing your chat there, good sir. I would have to actually figure something out to actually get that to actually come back. I'm not really sure where that is, where that setting is. I'll figure it out later. We'll see if we can actually get that up. Suzanne, if you want to actually relay for me, that'd be great. If that's possible. It says Russia's transport ministry said that the bridge's support were not damaged. The ministry said that the investigations were continuing, but unconfirmed reports said explosions were heard early on Monday. Russian authorities have accused Ukraine of attacking the Kerch Bridge with 2 unmanned surface vessels, drones that travel over the water rather than through the air. As yet, the BBC not seen any visual evidence to confirm this, but a source of Ukraine's security service told BBC Russia let's see, where am I? BBC Russia, and was behind the attack, and then the water-based drones were used. In televised comments on Monday evening, the Russian president accused Ukraine of launching this senseless and cruel attack. I mean, senseless and cruel attacks. I mean, isn't that what this war is about? Is senseless and cruel attacks? Like they're actually, doing something to this border nation to actually, try obtaining, Russians trying to obtain the Donbass region, and for them to actually think that it's okay for them to actually do such a thing, maybe just be the fact that it was intended to actually be a region that was actually not supposed to be controlled by either. They were actually supposed to be sovereign nations in their own. So for them to actually go ahead and be fighting over this particular region is kind of absurd. The bridge is an important resupply route for the Russian forces occupying parts of southern Ukraine. Of course it is. Of course it's a important resupply route. If it wasn't an important resupply route, it either A, wouldn't be there, or B, it would just it cease to exist, period. It just doesn't make sense why you'd think, oh, it's not important. It's just a very long bridge with a rail, with a train rail actually connected to it or nearby, which is actually still said to actually affect that, as well as the ferry routes that are actually in play right in that same area. Appearing on television with Mr. Putin, Deputy Prime Minister Marit Kushnulin said the bridge would be completely repaired by November 1st, while road traffic would resume in one direction from September 15th. So repaired by the 1st of November, you got 5 months without a bridge. What's up, Great Liquor? Hey, Devs, good to see you. Glad you're both over on that Rumble side of things. Hit that thumbs up button for me if you can. Either way, you got like 5 months before they actually consider the bridge completely repaired, and traffic would actually be able to actually move itself in and out of the Crimea region into Russia itself. And then it said it would resume in one direction from September 15th. So, a couple months early, about a month and a half earlier, you'd actually get the One Direction either going in or coming out. I'm guessing coming back out of Crimea, if I looked at that map correctly on how that would actually be. It says Monday's incident created long traffic jams and remaining road route out of Crimea and severe train delays on the railway were reported. The ferry crossing that runs parallel to the bridge was also affected. Russian officials urged holidaymakers stranded in Crimea to drive home through areas of southern Ukraine occupied by Russia. Since its army invaded last year, the officials said they would reduce curfew hours to let tourists through and that the army would keep the route safe. I guess if you feel that you're stranded in Crimea and that you're unable to drive home, I mean, there has to be another way. Oh, wait, there is. There's ferry routes. Yes, they're currently affected, but that's not going to actually completely and totally dismantle them and make them ineffective at all. So, some people are still going to be able to actually find a safe route back across those waters back into Russia or back and forth. The officials said that they would reduce curfew hours to let tourists through and that the army would keep the route safe. Sure it would. The Russian army is going to keep it safe? Or is the Ukrainian army that's going to keep it safe? Or are they really seriously going to keep it safe? Commercial flights between Russia and Crimea, a popular holiday destination for Russians since 2014, have been suspended since Moscow's invasion. So I mean, they're not no commercial flights. No commercial flights have actually been going back and forth, for the last over 500 days or whatever, just to kind of keep their citizens safe. What's up, Charlemagne? Good to see you. Good to see you. Gladkov, governor of the western Russian region of Belgorod, which is close to Russia's border in Ukraine, said that in a telegram statement that a Russian couple had passed on Monday's incident. He added that the 14-year-old daughter had been injured. So I mean, they hit it just in time where it didn't affect a mass amount of people trying to actually cross the bridge. It affected a couple and their daughter. Obviously that 14-year-old is going to be without parents for the rest of her life, and as sad as that is, I feel bad for the little girl that she actually deal with such a thing. Unverified photos posted to the spokesperson in Ukraine's military administration in the Odessa region showed debris on the road across the bridge, as well as damaged railings. Defense analyst Stuart Crawford told the BBC he believed that drones had been used to attack the bridge. Oh, well, of course it seems that drones are actually the wave of the future. That's what they're actually going to continue to use to attack anywhere and everywhere that they possibly can. He also said details around what happened would likely remain unclear, as neither side would want to release much information. So you can kind of see, the Crimean Peninsula that's below Ukraine there in purple. You can see there's this bridge that comes out and over the top of the water, connects to this little island, and then shoots itself back over more water into Crimea. It's a very, very important bridge for Russia to actually, keep open, as without it being open for the next 5-6 months, there's going to be either people stranded in one side or the other temporarily until they get something worked out to actually get people to be able to move back and forth. If they canceled all commercial flights and there's no airplanes going in and out, those ferry routes are going to actually have to be utilized, sooner than later for that. So you can see there's the damage to the bridge, and it's damaged it significantly, where you can see both sides are actually off kilter. The one side is actually completely and totally damaged. And that's why they said that the one side of it, well, it looks like the side that's coming out of Crimea would actually be the side that's the worst. That would probably be the side that would take the 5 months up until November. The other side going in would actually be fixed within a month and a half earlier than that date. So you can kind of interesting how it says that the two-track railway was actually affected when it seems to be fairly significantly far enough away where I'm kind of surprised that it actually would be affected in any way, shape, or form. It just seems really strange that those railways were affected, being as far away as they are. And maybe they caught some little bit of stress fracture from the explosion, if the explosion was large enough to actually shake something loose, potentially. But I could see them opening those rails up sooner than later. Those should actually be easier to actually do. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesman Maria Zakharova accused Ukraine of attacking the Kerch Bridge with the direct participation of UK and the US, but provided no evidence to back up the assertions. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said there is no connection between the incident and Russia's decision to suspend its participation in a deal allowing Ukraine to ship out grain through the Black Sea. There's no connection between the two. They have nothing to do with each other, according to the article. The grain deal we will actually hit on next year or whatever. It seems to be something that's so unrelated that it's actually on the other side of the Crimean Peninsula. Why they would actually even equate it to the same thing kind of makes me wonder if it actually didn't have something to do with it. Otherwise, so it's kind of strange to actually hear them actually try calling it out the way it is. The alleged attack on the second major incident in Kerch Bridge in the past year. We actually reported on that last explosion here on Shtick with Koolfrogg. It is something that that is kind of interesting to see, and that's why I think last night, whoever it was that was actually pushing it, trying to tell me, hey, this happened. As I was actually running the show, just so happened to be, and I actually said, "Oh, again," and because it's really, really something to actually see. Them actually going after this particular bridge over and over again, only to allow them to fix it, repair it, and then go back. If they're going to take it out, remove the bridge. Just remove the bridge. Hit it a couple different times and watch the thing collapse into the ocean or the sea or whatever, and stop playing games. Stop playing games. Just do it or don't. Don't sit there and be like, okay, no, we're gonna wait for them to repair it and then wait a few more months and then do it again. Even now, the exact cause of the explosion last October remains unclear. Footage from the time showed that the huge fireball erupting as a number of cars and lorries made their way across the bridge. The latest incident comes amid a much anticipated counteroffensive by Ukrainian forces, which aims to retake territory in southern and eastern Ukraine. Obviously, they want the peninsula back. They say it's theirs. They want the Donbass region back because they say it's theirs. The Donbass region isn't supposed to be anybody's. As far as Russia, annexing and using Crimea, and Ukraine unable to actually take it back with any type of force whatsoever, really makes me wonder if they really want it back, if they've been actually fighting for it since 2014 for almost 10 years now. It really seems to be that's too long. That's way too long for them to actually be playing around with this region and thinking that, oh, okay, we're going to take it back. We're going to take it back. We're going to continue to fight to get it back. Well, you can continue to fight to try getting it back, but I don't see it as being something that you're really going to succeed at if that's the case. Ukrainian forces have retaken 18 square kilometers, or about 7 square miles, over the past week in a fight back. Ukraine's Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Malar said that the messaging app Telegram, the recent gains take a total area of reclaimed land to 210 square kilometers, or 81 square miles, since the counteroffensive began. It seems to be a very large area that they actually want to control. They don't want all of Ukraine. Russia doesn't want all of it. They just want part of it. What's up, Gohagen? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I can't actually see Darth because he's actually hidden. That is actually him. Because I can't see him. I really can't. I really can't see it. So, if he's there, glad he's there. So that's the bridge. Really, I mean, it's again something that's been done, overdone, and they're going to probably do it again as long as this war continues. I hope they can actually come to some kind of diplomatic reasoning to actually stop this particular war from actually occurring. P. Beaver, good to see you. Glad you're there. So diplomatically, hopefully something actually comes out of that and they can actually get, to some kind of conclusion. I don't know who's going to be happy out of the conclusion, who's not, but it seems as though is neither side is going to be happy with either one of them having that territory, which is the whole reason why I say it's not supposed to be either one of them. It's actually supposed to be its own. Drone boats, not so sure about that. Not so sure about that. Okay, go ahead. I really don't know if that's even something that they'd actually use. It sounds like they actually just use drones. There's a couple of different style unmanned boats that they were actually talking about that were actually part of it, but really not sure if that's exactly what they used. It's unmanned surface vessels that travel over water rather than through the air is what they're accusing. That's only what they're accusing it. So there's no saying that's exactly what happened, and we're not going to know what happened from either side. It's called the suicide drone with no pilot. In that they're calling it unmanned surface vessels is what they're actually calling it. Drones that travel on water. So it's like it could potentially be that, but they're just accusing it. They're just accusing that of being the thing. It's not necessarily that that's exactly what it is. We have no clue exactly what happened, and we're not going to know. I don't know. Sounds like terrorism to me. Somebody did something, that's for sure. Somebody did something. Eventually, one day, the word will come out on what exactly happened. I applied for Canadian military as a cook. Well, they make you write placement tests. Turns out I was better suited for demolition, blowing up bridges. That sounds like fun. Suzanne. You should, I mean, what the heck? You become a legitimate terrorist, I guess. So then there's this grain deal that they were speaking of while they were actually in that article. It is something that actually came up to go along with it. So I'm like, okay, so let's check out this grain deal and what's actually going on with the grain deal, because this is something that's going to affect the world, not just that. These grains that are supposed to be shipped in and out of the area are intended for world food production, not just their own. Russia has refused to renew the deal with Ukraine, which allowed the export grain through the Black Sea. The deal enabled Ukraine to supply world markets with over 32 million tons of food products. It will now need to find alternative routes for its exports. How do you get it around the world without actually putting it on a boat? Oh, you ship it up and through other regions and then get it on a boat somewhere else. It sounds like it would take an awful lot of time to actually get something like that to actually work. What is the grain deal? When Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, its navy blockaded the country's Black Sea ports. The Ukraine grain deal let cargo ships pass safely along the corridor of the Black Sea, 310 nautical miles along the 3 nautical mile wide, to and from the Ukrainian ports of Odessa, Kornomorsk, and another area that I can't really pronounce. I'm not going to even attempt. I'll just destroy it as I try. The deal was brokered in July 2022 by Turkey and the UN. It also allowed the Russian Navy to check ships for weapons in the Bosphorus Strait at the entrance of the Black Sea. So you can see here in this map, there's 3 areas that those ships would actually be loaded from, would actually work themselves down in this long line down into the Bosphorus Strait. The Bosphorus Strait, which is saying that Russia has control of, to actually check boats to be sure if they actually have weapons on them or whatever. So then for them to actually pull out of the deal, saying that Ukraine can't actually ship their goods out through that area and into the rest of the world, really seriously sounds really sounds kind of horrible off of Russia's side, to actually think that they would actually prevent these particular foods from being shipped, causing potential hunger in some of these countries that require these particular drop-offs. The deal was brokered in July 2022 by Turkey and the UN. It also allowed the Russian Navy to check ships, the weapons in Bosphorus Strait. Why is the grain deal important? Ukraine is one of the world's largest exporters of sunflower, maize, wheat, and barley. One of the world's largest exporters. So, being that it says it's one of the world's largest exporters, it's because they actually put all 4 of those things in the same category, whereas they actually are the largest exporter of wheat product when it comes down to it. For these products to actually be blocked from actually being able to be shipped in and out of the region, really could actually do other things to the food product in itself. If it doesn't get a chance to actually get used, would they eventually go bad and make the grain unusable? It says Russia's blockade meant some 20 million tons of grain became trapped in the Black Sea ports. This caused world prices to soar. So because it's causing world prices to soar, we're going to actually see a lot of our products, as from breads to other grains to anything else that actually uses wheat product or any of these other products, to actually become something ridiculous to actually purchase. I think a lot of us are going to end up having issues actually purchasing anything of the sort. Davini says Ukraine thought Russia would help them. after the world powers that be shut down literally everything in Russia. Visa, PayPal, TikTok, probably YouTube. Like, get fucked. Probably unpopular opinion. I mean, I don't think that Ukraine actually thought that Russia would actually help them. I just think that Ukraine actually would assume that Russia wouldn't be so ignorant to the point of allowing them to actually, continue to ship these products in and out of the region. It also threatened the cause of food shortages in several African, Middle Eastern countries, which relied heavily on the imports of Ukrainian grain. There's a lot of countries that actually do rely on Ukraine for all the stuff that they do and produce, even fertilizers and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that comes out of Ukraine that's actually shipped out of there in and around the world. Maybe why there's actually something happening in that region is to actually reduce the amount of food grains coming out of there to maybe help with the reduction of population across the earth. We just never know. They're bombing indiscriminately and ethnic cleansing. Maybe potentially. I mean, there's lots to actually go along with this particular situation. It also threatened to cause food shortages in several African and Middle Eastern countries, which relied heavily on imports of Ukrainian grain. When the deal was signed, the grain shipment restarted. World food prices declined by roughly 20%, according to the UN's Food and Agricultural Organization. So, they signed the deal saying that it was okay, that they were going to actually allow this for Russia to actually back up on it and actually say, nah, never mind. We don't want it to happen. Could have actually maybe hurt some other things to go along with that. So then you can see Ukraine is a major supplier of key crops: sunflower oil, 46%, barley, 17%, maize, 12%, and wheat is 9%. That seems like it's a little off. Wheat product was actually supposed to be a little bit higher than the other ones coming out of Ukraine, from what I had gathered from previous. So them putting wheat grain at the very bottom of that list and saying sunflower oil is at the top of the list is kind of maybe misleading in itself. Many unpopular opinions, such as Ukraine is wiped off the face of the earth. No one would really notice. Why? Way overhyped as regional conflicts go. I agree. It's way overhyped. There's no reason that we need to actually continue to hype up this region, this area. Just let's do away with it. I mean, it was supposed to be a borderland it was intended to be there, to be between Europe and Russia, and that's what it was created for. Hence, the name Ukraine actually means borderland. So I mean, it's all it was supposed to be. For it to actually be so highly contested over is really interesting to actually see why they're continuously fighting over this area. Why has Russia refused to renew the grain deal? When the UN brokered the deal, it told Russia it would help it increase its exports of grain and fertilizers. Although Western countries have imposed no sanctions on Russia's agricultural products, Russia says the sanctions they did impose have deterred shipping firms, international banks, and insurers from dealing with its producers. What sanctions are being imposed on Russia? Russia asked for its state-owned agricultural bank, Rosokozbank, to be reconnected to the SWIFT fast payment system, from which all Russian banks were barred in June 2022. That goes along with what Div was saying. There's several different things that were actually stopped and made unable to use in Russia because of what they started. Yes, I used air quotes on that, and what they started, because supposedly they continue to actually say that it's a Russia deal, and Russia's the one that actually went ahead and actually started this. I don't think that it was. I think it was there was other tensions that were going on, and they were being aggravated into doing such a thing. I really do. I think there's a lot more to it that we're not being told. The UN suggested that Russia set up a subsidiary of the bank, which would be allowed to use SWIFT, but Russia refused that option, saying it would take too long. Others suggested schemes such as processing payments for food and fertilizer through the U.S. bank J.P. Morgan Chase or through the African Export Import Bank also fell through. So there's an awful lot of banks that they've actually tried to get to actually help process these deals. And it seems that there's a lot of people that are just super, super leery about what Russia's about and why they're actually doing this. And they're blaming Russia for it and then cutting them off, saying no. So if for Russia to cut off Ukraine from actually being able to ship out goods to banks that are part of other countries that are disallowing funds to be transferred in and out of, kind of maybe makes me think that there's more to it, that Russia did it because that's what everybody else was doing to actually hinder Russia from actually doing what they need to do. So Russia says, if you're not going to allow us to do what we need to do, we're not going to allow Ukraine to do what they need to do either. And now you're all cut off, because if they're the top grain producer and they're not able to do anything because Russia says no, there might be a little bit of a tit for tat going on or something or other, when you actually think about it. Russia says that it will rejoin the deal if its conditions are met. So, meet the conditions of Russia and they'll go along with whatever you want. Give them their deal, and they're going to allow the grains to actually be shipped in and out of their area. They'll say, yes, okay, go. But until then, they're saying no. They're saying no. So what are they going to do? They're going to exactly that. Now we starve Africa. Coincidence? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Banks go and say, no, we're not going to allow you. We're not going to help Russia. Russia says, okay, fine. You don't want to help us. We're not going to help you. Now you don't get fed. Now what? Now what are you going to do? So, keep on pulling strings from one side to the other and try figuring out what's actually going to come out of there. I really seriously could see more happening here in the near future. Zelensky is some kind of political superstar, but is a moron. I can at least respect Putin, even if he's a piece of shit. PB, you got a point. Totally. Is Zelensky, the short little moron that he is, really seriously has nothing but what we've continuously gave them to actually go off of. And Russia's going to actually hold them back from actually doing anything, like we can see here. This is exactly what they're doing. What other export routes are there for Ukrainian grain? The EU has an existing plan for distributing Ukrainian grain, which cannot be shipped through the Black Sea. It says it can be transported across Ukrainians' borders with Poland and taken to ports to the Baltic Sea or by rail and barged by the Romanian port of Constanta. When you actually think about it, you know how much this is going to actually cost for them to actually ship this, to distribute their grain out, if they have to actually go to the point of actually shipping it in trucks up to these other ports through Poland to finally hit boats there to actually ship it in and around the world. It's going to cost them a lot more, which it's going to cost us a lot more when it comes down to it, when you actually start trying to purchase any of these particular items containing these grains that they're actually using. So you can see alternative routes for Ukrainian grain, since is, through Romania, through Poland, through Lithuania. There are ways for Ukraine to actually, get this stuff out. Why they would actually try going to Constanta is kind of ridiculous in itself, unless they can actually hide it, and they can actually put it on a boat that's not labeled theirs to actually make it through that area. It's right back to the Black Sea. You're going to have the same issue. You're going to have the same issue trying to go through Romania. Going through Poland, Lithuania, on the other hand, may not be that big of an issue for them. That's the reason that NATO wants to add Poland to part of NATO. Yep, exactly. Transport systems are extensive. There are plenty of ways, and many shipments are planned years in advance. They make it seem like the world will starve. When it comes down to it, yes, there are plenty of ways to actually get this stuff out. But when you actually cut out a main shipping route through the Black Sea, what's that going to do? Now all these boats have to go up around from Poland, up and around the whole EU peninsula, back into the Mediterranean to distribute across Africa in that area. So, NATO is the real problem. Yes, NATO is the real problem. NATO's going to continue to be the real problem as we actually move forward with this particular conflict. I don't see Romania actually being the best area for them to actually do it. Hopefully, if they can, I hear you when they say they're actually playing with words, trying to say that the world's gonna starve. Well, and it's not necessarily going to starve immediately, but if you continuously cut them off and can actually stop them from actually sending their own product out the easier way, what's that going to do? What's that going to do to them? Since the start of the war, Ukraine has been sending about 10% of the grain exports across its land border with Poland. However, there are likely to be log jams if it exports more grain via this route. Not having that main route that they're used to and being cut off, they're going to actually flood these other areas, which is going to actually cause these things that they call log jams to actually get the exports out of that region. It says Ukraine's railways have different gauge to those in the rest of Europe, which means that every trainload of grain has to be transferred from one set of wagons to another at the border. Why would they do that? What the heck? How ridiculously stupid can you be? You use the same gauge as everybody else, so you don't have these issues. So now they're going to have even more issues trying to get stuff in and out of the region. Wow. How stupid. Also, the rail network in Eastern Europe does not have the capacity to transport to the Baltic ports of Constanta. Even the relatively low volumes of grain that Ukraine has been exporting by land up until now. A lot of grain has stayed in countries such as Poland, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Slovakia, rather than being transported any further. It is glutted their market and caused local food prices to crash. So I mean, I guess, so it's like if they're crashing the market, that's maybe different than, because they have too much. They got too much food, so not necessarily going to starve, but they're going to actually, food would actually go bad. Would actually go bad in the future or whatever, where they wouldn't be able to actually sell it, so they have to actually sell it at a lower price to actually get rid of it. Is the Bosphorus Strait was such a concern? Why not send warships to protect the shipping lane? Because it's out of NATO control. NATO can't actually do that. That's the only ones that are actually going to be able to protect him is NATO, because the United States is not in this particular war. It's NATO. It's NATO that's doing it. To send anybody in there would actually potentially cause a war in itself. Maybe. I mean, I get it. I get what you're saying, PB. It seems like a simple solution. But is it a simple solution when it comes down to it? Because who do you send? U.S.? Why does the U.S. have anything to do with it? The U.S. is not in this war, according to what they're actually saying. NATO's not even in the war. It's just that we're sending every country that's part of NATO is actually sending stuff to Ukraine to actually take care of it. So it'd be a NATO thing. And if NATO is not going to actually go and actually cover it and take care of it, maybe they don't care. Maybe they just don't care. Much of it would be international waters and surrounded by NATO members. I get that. But maybe they just don't care. Maybe they don't care. And maybe they actually want to make this a bigger thing than it really is, to make the world scared that, oh, we must really seriously protect Ukraine. Otherwise, we're going to starve. Send more stuff. Is it intimidation? See, we're almost on the same page there, P. Beaver. You see that? Where have the Ukrainians food exports gone? The UN says that all the food products Ukraine has exported under the grain deal over the past year, 47% has gone to high-income countries, including Spain, Italy, and Netherlands. Okay, so that's all EU. 26% is in upper middle income countries such as Turkey and China. Do they need to actually be on a boat to make it to Turkey and or China? There's no other way to actually get it to go the other way to Turkey and China. And then 27% have gone to lower middle income countries such as Egypt, Kenya, and Sudan. Again, all these countries. I mean, the Egypt, Kenya, Sudan. So it's like when you actually look at Egypt, Kenya, and Sudan in themselves, and where they are, for them to actually ship this grain out on these boats, go through the Bosphorus Strait, and make it straight to Africa, Egypt, Kenya, and Sudan super easily, as opposed to taking a longer route, would increase the price because they'd have to actually pay for the means to actually get it there. The shipping lanes could easily be protected if the grain mattered. Exactly. I'm with you on that one. I really don't think all of this really matters. I think they're actually trying to actually push the reasoning to actually protect Ukraine as Russia's the evil enemy that we need to actually watch out for. NATO knows full well they can't beat Putin without the USA military. I mean, USA military is really the leading force in NATO anyway. I mean, I know every other country has their own means of military might that they're actually sending in and out of the region. But, at the same time, U.S. military is really significantly larger or have more able to actually help out the area. In 2022, more than half of the grain bought by the UN's World Food Program came from Ukraine. So half of the grain bought by the UN's World Food Program, the UN themselves, United Nations in itself, half of the grain bought was from Ukraine. That's kind of interesting in itself to actually think that half of it's actually come from them. That's just in 2022. So, I mean, obviously numbers are going to fluctuate and change We're going to see prices probably go up on most of this kind of product because it's actually something that they're talking about, regardless to if it was actually something necessary or not. I'm really seriously sick of speaking of this region of Ukraine and this goings on of with Russia and everything in and out of it. I'm so sick of it. I don't want anything to do with it anymore. I want it to actually be something that will actually just go away. I hope they actually can actually figure something out here in the near future where they can actually work out their issues and maybe just give the Donbass region to Russia so that they have what they want. They just want the couple of regions that are widely used to actually get their own goods out and about through the Black Sea. It seems as the Black Sea is a very important area for shipping goods, and we just keep on. I think that the United States and or NATO maybe needs to step up on the issue. Maybe they do need to step up on the issue and actually, continue to go after Russia, sanction them even more. I know the last couple of sanctions didn't help. It didn't help because then it said, okay, fine, we'll just buy oils with the yuan and and the ruble, as opposed to actually purchasing it with anything else. We won't use the U.S. dollar any longer. Let's skip the U.S. dollar. So they've kind of hurt us in the long run. They've hurt us in the long run when it comes down to it. We're gonna actually move on here to George Santos. So George Santos, he's actually been a fairly important topic as of lately for the United States in itself. I was just kind of I was kind of confused on one thing before we actually move on, because I've seen this 2 nights in a row, and I've not said anything. Suzanne, Poland is part of NATO. Poland has been part of NATO since 1999. So just to clear that up for you, Poland is part of NATO. They've been part of NATO for a while. Really pissed off NATO and World Economic Forum if Putin just said, okay, keep Ukraine and broker peace. He's not going to say keep Ukraine. He just wants the region. He doesn't care about all of Ukraine. He just cares about the Donbass region. Why? Because Ukraine just so happens to think that that's theirs. It's not. It's not supposed to be theirs either. The Donbass region was supposed to be their own sovereign territories in between Ukraine and Russia, but it's not. Zelensky will have to be gone for that to happen, though. I mean, he's just an actor. That's all he is. I don't see him as actually being something significant. I really don't. Go Hagen, is that why? What? Huh? What do you mean? I'm confused. Clarify your question there. Go ahead and we'll answer your question quick before I actually move on. Yeah. 30 member countries. It's actually 32 now. Albania, Bulgaria, Belgium, Croatia, Canada, Denmark, France, Greece, Czech Republic, Estonia, Latvia, Germany, Hungary, Lithuania, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Romania, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Slovakia, Slovenia, and others. There's others that are actually, I didn't list all of them. I just listed through so many so you could actually see Poland is part of NATO. They've been part of NATO for a while. Again, if China set up a puppet government in Mexico and was booming place in Cali, would the U.S. put up with that? Or bombing places in Cali, would the U.S. put up? Probably not. But, you know, it's not like China's not nearby anyway. They're sitting in Cuba. So, I mean, they're not that far away. They're about 100 miles off the coast of the United States. Not much different than the United States being in Taiwan. Really kind of similar, about 100 miles off the coast of China. As far as Ukraine goes, you know, they've been told to stay out of. They're not allowed to be part of NATO. Yet they have to actually end the war for that to actually be a thing. Again, we're going to move on. We're going to stop talking about Ukraine, Russia. The UKR doesn't like Ruskies. I'm just wiping them out. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so George Santos. George Santos has actually been a congressman that's actually been ridiculed for a lot of things lately. And because one side went ahead and censured somebody, the other side feels it's necessary to do the same. Let's go after George Santos. Let's go censure him. You want to censure somebody? Here, we'll censure somebody too. No, they didn't actually go and censure him. It's just that that's what they want to do. So they held a little meeting to actually get the word out there that that's exactly what they're going to attempt to do, as you know, as they actually try to create something out of this. I don't really see it as being something that needs to happen. I'm not really on the side of George Santos either when it comes down to it. This guy out of New York, he's really there's things that are wrong.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Congressman Richie Torres, and I'm proud to be joined by two of my colleagues, Congressmember Dan Goldman from New York and Congressmember Bobby Garcia from California. And we're here to announce a privilege resolution to censor Congressman George Santos.
Censure?
Censure. Of Congress at various points.
Use the right words, brother.
Have informally condemned Mr. Santos for systematically lying to the American people and defrauding the United States Congress. But the time has come.
Wait a minute. So we're going to censure him for lying? Okay. We want to censure somebody for lying. Let's do that. Let's go after every single representative, every single senator that has ever lied about anything ever, and censure them for their lies. Let's do that. I was kind of thinking the same thing. The pink and blue actually looks pretty nice, in my opinion. I kind of like it. Very Easter-like, yes.
For Congress to speak with a single voice and to publicly censure George Santos, whose lies have gone unpunished. As you know, Mr. Santos has systematically lied to the American people. He's lied about every facet of his life, his employment and educational background, his business and philanthropic endeavors.
Kind of sounds like Joe Biden. Lies, more lies. Let's continue to lie about everything. He said things like he was the only one in his class to actually pick up grants. He was the only one he was the smartest kid in his class when he really seriously wasn't. There's so much stuff that we can go after people for lies. Now, like I said, I'm not necessarily not for actually censoring this guy because, he seems to be a piece of work in himself. But if you're going to push that it's just because of the lies, I don't think your censures are actually going to take foot. I really don't.
endeavors, his ties to historical events like the Holocaust, 9/11, and the Pulse mass shooting. The breadth and depth of his deception is so staggering that it cries out for congressional punishment. And a public censure is the least that we can do to hold George Santos accountable. After 7 months of delay by the House Republicans, doing nothing is no longer an option. Speaker Kevin McCarthy promised the American people that there would be a rapid and quick investigation into the misconduct of George Santos. One House Republican assured us that he would be held accountable within 60 days. That comment was made on May 17th. Today is July 17th. 60 days have passed, and yet there continues to be no accountability when it comes to George Santos. There continues to be nothing but silence from House Republican leadership. I cannot help but conclude that the Republican strategy is one of indefinite and infinite delays in an attempt to shield George Santos from accountability. The insistence on slow walking the investigation is driven not by principle, but by power. It's driven not by ethics, but by politics. The reality is that the Republicans need George Santos and are doing everything they can to
Do they
protect him.
really? I don't know if they really do.
And so our message to House Republicans is stop treating George Santos as if he's untouchable. House Republicans should join House Democrats in.
So then why don't you impeach him instead of actually just censoring him? Censoring him isn't going to do anything but allow you to actually open up an investigation to go after him later. We just went through this with the censoring of the last guy, of Shifty Ship. So when it comes down to it, it's really kind of ridiculous for you to try censoring somebody. I liked the fact that they actually censored Schiff. Still at the very end of that particular episode, I still said straight out, it doesn't really matter. All it really does is allows them to actually investigate them, to actually potentially impeach them later. If you don't have enough, and all it is that you're pointing at him that he lied about this and he lied about that, well, look at yourself. How many lies did you tell to get to the position that you're in?
Holding George Santos accountable. Now, we're introducing the privilege resolution for two reasons. The first reason is transparency. The American people have a right to know where each and every member of Congress stands on the question of George Santos, on the question of whether and how to hold him accountable. Right? There are Republicans who claim to feel outraged over the lies of George Santos, but not a single one of those Republicans, not even the so-called moderate Republicans, have pressured House Republican leadership to hold George Santos accountable.
Again, because it's just that you're actually pointing at his lies that he actually spread or whatever, and to actually, get to where he's at. You continuously point at just his lies. What's that really going to do for you? I don't see that being something that's really going to help. I really don't.
And so without a vote, without a public censure resolution, all those calls for resignation and all those words of outrage are as hollow as George Santos himself. The second reason is accountability. We have to hold Republican leadership accountable for keeping their promise to the American people, their promise of a quick and rapid investigation. And we have to hold George Santos accountable because his lies so far have gone unpunished. And Mr. Santos feels no shame. He feels no remorse.
My favorite is a dude that's like, tie? Fuck that. Just a plain white shirt and my black jacket. I can't afford a tie. He's going places. He's definitely going places, especially when he's actually wearing an American flag, as the other ones aren't.
And even though he imagines himself to be a civil rights icon in the mold of Rosa Parks, the rest of us who live in the real world see him for who he is, a complete charlatan who has lied his way to the United States Congress and has done so with impunity and has done so under the protection of House Republicans. And so our message is that House Republicans have to stop protecting Mr. Santos and start holding him accountable for perpetrating a fraud against the American people and against Congress as an institution. So we're going to introduce the privilege resolution, and behind me are two co-sponsors, and I'm going to introduce Robert Garcia. So.
Well, thank you, Congressman Torres, and thank you to Congressman Goldman. Both have been leaders in ensuring that we hold George Santos accountable. Now, we all know that that George Santos is the biggest fraud and the biggest serial liar in the Congress. He's lied about virtually everything, and Congressman Torres just reviewed lie after lie after lie.
Again, lie after lie after lie. That's all it is you're just calling him out for his lies. You give us an actual instance of what he lied about, why he lied about it, and then give us a reason why you want to actually censure this guy. Otherwise, your censure is pointless. It's pointless. You're not giving us anything that he exactly did.
Lie. Now, I want to just take us back also for a moment, which I think is really important. 60 days ago, along with the two members that are here, we forced a vote and action against George Santos to expel him from Congress. We took that action very seriously, and we pushed really hard to ensure that there would be a fair vote. Now, it's interesting, of course, that every single Republican in the House voted to save George Santos. They stood shoulder to shoulder as the Save Santos caucus. So as George Santos was so grateful, as you might remember, he actually sent little thank you notes to all of his colleagues and many of his New York delegation, just thanking them for standing with him. And as was mentioned before, in fact, one Republican, and I'll name him Mr. Lalotte of New York, said that he expected results in 60 days for his actions, and that the liar, his words, should be gone by either resignation or expulsion before the August recess. Well, we're at the 60-day mark, and time's up for George Santos. Now, a healthy democracy requires trust. It requires that we put our faith in government, and George Santos has broken our trust over and over again. He's lied about his qualifications, and his constituents,
I'm
and the
with you,
American
P.
people,
Beaver,
essentially
for sure.
voted for a fictional character as their representative. So now this is an opportunity to once again put the Republican conference and make them accountable to their votes on whether they want to continue to support George Santos and his lies and his defrauding of the American public. And so I support 100% as a co-sponsor of this censure resolution, and we'll see what the actions of the Republicans do next. And I'll close by saying that Kevin McCarthy himself said there would be an expeditious resolution at the Ethics Committee, and that has not happened, and there's been no updates into that progress. And so we're going to bring this to a vote and force this vote against the Republicans. And with that,
you're going to force a vote on the House against these Republicans? How are you going to do that? You don't have the majority. If you're going to force the vote and you think you're going to actually get somewhere, I think you need to actually use some basic math and actually count up the amount of people that are there. I really don't see you actually winning this particular case of actually censuring George Santos unless you can actually convince a couple of Republicans to actually go along with it and believe your lies, that that's all he's doing is lying. If all he's doing is lying, I think everybody that's in part of Congress needs to look in the mirror and maybe, look up the person that's actually lying the most and then censure themselves. No one cares about Santos. Nobody really does care about Santos when it comes down to it. No, even Republicans don't really care for him when you actually think about it. But at the same time, for Democrats to go after him, Republicans aren't going to sit there and be like, "Oh, okay, it's fine, go for it."
Congressman Dan Goldman.
Thank you, Congressman Garcia, and thank you, Congressman Torres, for leading this.
More
censure
distractions, Suzanne?
resolution.
Yeah, could be.
It is sad that we need to be here in order to do this. It is sad that George Santos continues to walk the halls of this hallowed institution, given that he is only here based on lies and deceit. Now, we have documented exhaustively all of the different lies, and you can find most of them in the preamble of this censure resolution. That doesn't include the criminal indictment that is now facing George Santos, including crimes charged related to his campaign last year. But that all does not appear to be enough for House Republican leadership to put the constituents of the 3rd District of New York over their own political power. And lest you think that anyone on the Republican side of the aisle who has condemned George Santos, who has called, as Congressman Garcia just said, him a liar, who has said that he should resign, they all had their chance on May 17th to hold him accountable. They went along with the effort to avoid accountability for George Santos. Congressman Landsman and I introduced a resolution a few weeks ago that would require the Ethics Committee to provide a report to Congress today, July 17th, because it is 60 days from their effort to refer for the second time the expulsion resolution to the Ethics Committee. We've heard nothing. And that's not surprising, because the party of Donald Trump believes in the tactic of delay, the defense of delay. And that is why we haven't heard anything. And that's why, unless they continue to receive pressure, we will not hear anything from him. We are going to require them to vote again. And as you read the censure resolution, everyone should think to themselves, if you agree that these facts warrant public censure for George Santos, how can you disagree that they also warrant expulsion? They are shameful, deceitful, unworthy statements, lies, and deception provided by a current member of Congress. And he not only should be censured, but he should be removed from Congress. And this is one step in accountability, and we will not stop highlighting the House Republican leadership's effort to embrace George Santos. And we will not stop emphasizing the fact that the moderate New York Republicans, 6 of them are freshman members, including George Santos, continue to protect George Santos in order to keep him in Congress.
The interesting on that is, yes, Divinity. I do have the list of the alleged lies that he did supposedly do. Yes, I do have after this is over, I'll actually list off what they're actually considering the lies. Being that these guys don't want to actually do it themselves and actually tell us what he actually lied about, they just want to actually just be so vague about it and just be like, oh, he lied. He lied. Wouldn't it be great if somebody investigated this guy? Maybe. I mean, maybe they should investigate every single person that's part of Congress that has told a lie, and then maybe you'll actually get something out of it. You could remove the name Santos from the press conference and insert the name of from any side. It's all the same noise. Yep, exactly. They're not actually pointing out what his lies actually are.
And that is something that they will have to deal with back in my home state of New York as they go forward. The Republican Party is now the party of George Santos. And that is something that I hope every Republican will think very long and hard about. So I thank Congressman Torres for introducing this resolution. And we look forward to continuing our quest to hold George Santos accountable and to rid the Congress of his stench. Thank you.
With that said, we'll take whatever questions you have. So.
Thank you, Congressman Torres. Why are you releasing this measure now when these allegations have been known before Santos took office? Is it retaliation for?
That's really faint. We're going to try going back. Why are you releasing the measure now when these allegations have been known since before Santos took office? Is it retaliation for the GOP in their censure resolution against Congressman Schiff? And do you think that the censure resolution can win enough GOP support to pass?
Well, the timing of the resolution is based on promises made by House Republican leadership. 2 months ago, Speaker McCarthy said that there would be a rapid and quick and expeditious investigation into the misconduct of George Santos. One House Republican from New York said that he would be held accountable within 60 days. So here we are 60 days later, and there's no accountability, and there continues to be complicity and silence from House Republican leadership. And keep in mind, unlike prior censures, which were largely politically driven, no one disputes that George Santos perpetrated wrongdoing. Like, there is no dispute about the unethical misconduct of George Santos. The question is whether are we willing to hold him accountable? And House Democrats have long been willing to hold him accountable, whereas House Republicans have been treating him as if he's untouchable, have been treating him as if he's a conservative Supreme Court justice bound by no code of ethics. So that's the fundamental divide. It's the question of accountability, but no one disputes that George Santos perpetrated wrongdoing that merits congressional consequences. And if you're a House Republican who has called upon him to resign, then you should have no trouble voting for a public censure. If you have informally condemned George Santos, you should have no trouble formally censuring him, right? A public censure follows logically from the claims of outrage on the part of
That's
the
funny, Mike, because Gohagan just said the same thing just a short bit ago. I like his shirt and tie.
Look, there should be, but if the outrage of the Republicans is manufactured, and if there's an insistence on protecting George Santos from accountability at all cost, then obviously that's going to stack the odds against the resolution.
And I would just add, to reiterate the point that I made earlier, is for any
This guy, the
Republicans
cut,
who vote
is that what you're saying?
yes to censure George Santos, the next question they should be asked is, if you agree with this censure resolution, why did you avoid holding him accountable when you had the opportunity on an expulsion resolution?
I find it ridiculous that we're actually playing these games of censure back and forth between the two. Really, is it really necessary to continue to point fingers at each other and say, you lied, you did this, I'm going to censure you so we can actually go and investigate anything and everything that you're about and actually get the exact truth out of it and what exactly happened. And then what? Then still not get him actually impeached? I really don't see that any of these guys. I don't see Schiff being impeached. I don't see Santos being impeached. They're not going to do it. They're not going to go that far. This is a ridiculous waste of time on their part to actually try bringing this up as being something that's legit.
And you copped out and you referred it to the ethics committee for yet a second time, even though there was already an ongoing resolution. But the other thing I wanted just to add to Congressman Torres, this should not be a political issue. And part of the reason it shouldn't be a political
But you're all politicians talking about this issue. How can it? not be political.
Political issue is that the preamble to this resolution, the litany of lies, deception, and fraud that George Santos has executed should not be in a question as to whether or not he belongs in Congress. And that is the trouble here, is that this has become a political issue because the Republicans consistently put politics over the people, and especially in this case, the people of the 3rd District of New York, who have effectively not had representation this entire Congress.
This congressional announcement must have needed some airtime. Kind of seems that way, doesn't it? Why are they so damn quiet? On the investigation late, which is actually pretty extraordinary for the committee, which is pretty much never speaks about their investigations once they are underway, said they're working on an expeditious manner. Wouldn't it be inappropriate for the speaker to put additional pressure on them to complete the work more quickly, and given that is ongoing, and they're clearly signaled that they are working on this investigation by force this issue right now?
Well, a powerful case could be made that the evidence is sufficient to publicly censure him, because everyone concedes the record. There's no record that has to be established. Everyone concedes that he lied to an egregious extent that's unbecoming of a member of Congress, right? So we're not debating whether he committed wrongdoing. We're debating whether he should be held accountable for his wrongdoing, and we believe he should be held accountable.
But what did he do? What is it that he did? You're being so vague about it. You're not listing the things that he did. You're not saying, oh, this must be what he did, or this is what he did, and this is what he did, and this is why we're censuring him. You're not saying a damn thing about it. You're not saying a damn thing about it.
But again, we did not set the timeline. Speaker McCarthy said that there would be a rapid and expeditious investigation, and one of his members, based on conversations within the House Republican Conference, put the 60-day timeline. So if you tell us that within 60 days, Mr. Santos is going to be held accountable, we're going to follow up. We're operating on the terms that the Republican Party said.
You're operating on the terms of the Republican Party and what they said. Really? Because they said 60 days. You're like, okay, we got to hurry up. And how many days has it been since they actually brought up that this particular person actually lied? Santos, lied about this, that, and the other. He had so many lies that he actually spewed to actually get to where he's at, to actually get the seat that he's actually in. Do you seriously think that you just sitting there being as vague as you are is really going to bring up any reason?
I don't know if you want.
Do you want some airtime? Do you need some? Because if you don't, then okay, I'll do it. The text and resolution obviously meant the lies, but there's not a reference to all the federal indictment at all to the federal indictment.
Look, as far as we're concerned, all of it is disqualifying. It's an embarrassment that he not only lied flagrantly to Congress and to his constituents, but he has the shadow of a federal prosecution hanging over him. But in the end, we determined that let's leave the questions of criminal law to the official legal process.
Oh, so now you're actually thinking it's actually criminal what he actually lied about. Is it criminal for him to actually embellish anything and try saying, well, I did this, that, and the other, when he actually seriously didn't do this, that, or the other? Has it ever been a crime to actually say such a thing? Has it ever been a crime to actually hold office because of the words that you actually said. Because if that's the case, there's an awful lot of people that would like to actually get removed immediately. The whole shit politics, why do you care? That's what they want to see. Nobody except the Kool-Aid drinkers believe they give a fuck about honesty, integrity, or anything else. Well, I don't know if it's the Kool-Aid drinkers that are actually the ones that believe honesty, integrity, or anything else. I believe there's an awful lot of people that just straight up believe that their lies don't matter, and that as long as they continue to sound off over and over again and repeat their own lies, that eventually it sounds like they're actually being honest when they never had been.
Process, because the lies in and of themselves merit congressional consequences.
Again,
we have to send a
what
message
are the lies?
that there will be congressional consequences for defrauding the institution of Congress and defrauding the American people.
Why are they so quiet? It's so ridiculous.
The institution of Congress and defrauding the American people.
When do you guys plan to call up this resolution pro vote? Because then that we start the clock at the next to the legislative days that
So no final decision yet on a vote, and obviously I would make the decision in consultation with colleagues and leadership, but the likely timeline is before the August recess.
before August recess. So it's July. Within the next few weeks before they go on recess is where they actually want to actually hold this censure meeting or vote to actually go ahead and censure the guy for his lies that he's actually spewed to actually get to the place that he is. Not saying he didn't lie. I just want these guys to actually go ahead and say what he actually lied about. They're refusing to do so, and they're being super vague. Wasting time. Why is the premiere at least as you... Wait a minute.
Colleagues and leadership, but the likely timeline is before the August recess.
What is the premier view? At least as you're doing the calculation of the timeline, what is the trigger mechanism when you think it should be pulled to actually proceed with this? And then two, is there a chance procedurally that the House Republicans can do the same thing and send this back to the ethics?
Yes, I mean the Republicans can do to the public censure resolution what they previously did to the expulsion resolution introduced by Bobby Garcia. There could be an attempt to table the resolution. But again, if you're a Republican, a House Republican, a so-called moderate Republican from New York, and you've informally condemned George Santos, then why not publicly censure him? If you've called on him to resign, if you're sufficiently convinced of his wrongdoing that you've called upon him to resign, then what possible justification do you have for not voting to publicly censure him?
Thank you for answering the question with a question.
So the American people have a right to know where those Republicans stand. Is their outrage manufactured, or is it coming from a place of sincerity? And the only way to know is voting. I don't know if you want to. Yeah. Okay.
I do want to ask you, I know the Senator of Adam Schiff has brought up earlier, but specifically, they censured Schiff. We're saying he was a liar. and saying that he lied to the American people. And that was unbecoming of a member of Congress. So wouldn't it be hypocritical for Republicans not to vote in favor of censoring George Santos after they have just done the same thing? I mean, technically, I suppose it would be. It would be if you're gonna censure somebody for lying, and then go back around and be like, well, we censored the one guy, but we're not gonna go along with you to censor this other person. I mean, he could be looked at as slightly hypocritical or whatever. I get that. So, I mean, if you're gonna call somebody out for lying, make sure that you call everybody out equally for their lies. Again, I think if that's the case, that we're going to actually go ahead and continue to censure people over and over again for lies, then every single member of Congress should be censured right now and should be investigated for everything that they've ever done to see how legit they all are.
I mean, if you're asking whether Republicans are guilty of hypocrisy, I wholeheartedly agree. But in the Schiff case, it was purely partisan. Right? Only Republicans were leveling charges against him. In the Santos case, both Republicans and Democrats agreed that he engaged in wrongdoing. Both sides agree that he lied to the American people, but only one side is willing to hold him accountable.
How many Republicans actually said that they wanted to actually censure him? Because that's a good question in itself. Because if you're actually going to say that it's bipartisan, that there's Republicans that actually have something to say about it, how many rhinos actually said something? How many rhinos actually called him out for the bullshit of his lies? Because obviously you believe that he lied, and now you're saying it's bipartisan that they're actually going after George Santos for his particular lies. How many? Is it enough to actually impeach him? Because if it's not, is it worth you actually censuring him?
And we've said the avoidance of accountability can only continue for so long. Right now is the time for accountability. Thank you, everyone.
I never get over the lied to the American people. Like, no shit. That's what government does. I know, right? That's what I'm saying. It's fine. It's fine that you want to censure somebody. If you're going to censure people for lying, you best censure every single part of Congress, every single member of the administration, every single person that has anything to do with our current government, and find them all guilty of lying. Find them all guilty of lying. Don't just say it's one person or the other. Go ahead and find them all. Find them all guilty for their lies. So, I did a little digging to see if I could actually find a list of what this guy was actually being censured for, right? So here is a list of everything that this guy's ever lied about. So this is George Santos was indicted on May 10th and 13th on 13 federal charges, including wire fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, and lying to Congress. Okay. He allegedly lied to collect unemployment benefits. Santos was accused of fraudulently collecting more than $24,000 in unemployment benefits. Federal prosecutors say Santos illegally applied to receive unemployment benefits in June 2020 after the program was expanded to help people out of work due to the pandemic. At the time, he was employed by the regional director of the Florida-based investment firm, earning an annual salary of about $120,000. Okay. Yeah, maybe he should actually be brought up on something. Okay. Number 2, he allegedly lied to donors, then used their money to buy designer clothing. Federal prosecutors also accused Santos of defrauding political supporters while running for Congress last year. According to the indictment, Santos instructed a Queens-based political consultant to tell potential donors that the money would be used to help elect him in the House two people gave $25,000 each to an LLC operated by Santos, which was not registered as a super PAC. He allegedly lied to Congress. So now this one, allegedly. This one in particular, because it's allegedly, you really seriously have to kind of, maybe think about that one a little closer and realize what he actually tried to do or maybe tried to do, because they're just alleging that he did it. They don't know for sure that if he did it. All House candidates are required to file financial disclosure forms and give full accounting for the assets, income, and liabilities. Among other information, prosecutors say that while Santos certified that he was a disclosure were true and complete and correct, the statements he filed in May 2020 and September 2022 were riddled with inaccuracies. He lied about where he went to high school. Santos, whose parents emigrated from Brazil, says he attended the Horace Mann School in the Bronx during the first years of high school, but had to leave the prestigious private academy in his senior year because my parents fell in hard times, which is something that would later become known as a depression of 2008. But a spokesperson for the school told CNN in December that they had no evidence that he attended Horace Mann. Later, he obtained a high school equivalency diploma. It's still equivalent to a diploma. You can't actually say that he didn't actually get a diploma because it's still a diploma. He technically still has a diploma. Just because he didn't go to Horace Mann like he actually tried to say he did, is that grounds to actually for the censure? I'm not so positive. Not so positive on that. And college. Santos claimed he graduated with a degree in economic and finance from Baruch College in 2010, which suggests that he would have made it through a 4-year program in just 2 years if he actually graduated from Horace Mann in 2008. But a Baruch representative told the Times that there's no record of Santos being in the class of 2010. Okay, so he didn't go to either high school or college. He just kind of said that he did. Does it require you to go to college to actually be a member of Congress? Nope, absolutely not. You don't have to have a college education to be part of the House of Representatives. It's not a requirement. He never worked in Wall Street either. His campaign bio states that he worked at Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, but representatives of both companies told the Times they had no record of his employment. The lies weren't that hard to figure out. Santos said that he worked for Citi's real estate wing in 2010s, though the bank sold off its asset management operation when he was in high school. After Santos was sworn into Congress, the Times obtained a copy of the inflated resume claiming that he had graduated from the top 1% of his class. Kind of sounds a little familiar, doesn't it, Joe Biden? Claimed that he graduated in the top 1% of his class, earned an MBA in NYU, and was able to double the revenue of the project he worked on at Goldman. Santos kept his Goldman Sachs lie for years, according to court records obtained by Politico. He spoke at a 2017 trial in Seattle on behalf of a family friend accused of skimming credit card numbers from ATM machines. That's a little fraudulent, just stress in itself. So where did this money come from? When Santos first ran for Congress in 2020, he filed a disclosure showing a salary of about $55,000 working for the vice president of the business development company called Linkbridge Investors, where he says he introduced investors to hedge fund managers, claiming once that he had brought in about $1 million in revenue in just 6 months on a job. Even there, however, he was inflating his value. Newsday reports that the company's founder testified under oath in 2019 lawsuit that Santos was just a freelancer who sold sponsorships for the events and worked on commission. So not necessarily was Santos really worth a dime, but at the same time, continuously embellished his resume to make it look like he was actually better off than he was. Is the money legit? Even before his indictment, not everyone was buying the story that Santos earned his money how he says he did. In the Times notes, DeVolder had no public website or LinkedIn page in the campaign financial disclosure. He did not list any clients. In a campaign bio, Santos once described DeVolder as the family's firm and said it was managing $80 million in assets. At times, Santos would even go by the name of Anthony DeVolder. Even used a false name. Isn't that fun? There you go, Anthony DeVolder. I mean George Santos. Where did the money come from? Asked Representative Dan Goldman of Brooklyn, referring to the $700,000 Santos lent his own campaign. When asked about the money during the appearance in Steve Bannon's war room, Santos dodged the question, instead quipping, "Well, I'll tell you where I didn't come from. I didn't come from China, Ukraine, or Burisma." Oh, okay. Good for you for actually knowing what Hunter Biden was actually part of, or Joe Biden was actually part of, for that matter. But still didn't actually clarify your own means when it came down to it. So okay, censure the guy. Let's get rid of him. Let's do it. Censure him. Get rid of him. He's not worth a damn. He lied about founding an animal charity. Santos' campaign bio claimed that he ran a foundation called Friends of Pets United, saving 2,500 dogs and cats between 2013 and 2018. But there were no social media accounts for the organization, no IRS records, and no evidence of a charity being registered in New York or New Jersey, where Santos claimed to have operated. The Times found that the Friends of Pets United held one fundraiser with a rescue group in New Jersey in 2017, for which he charged $50 entry, but the group that threw the event said that it never received any funds and that Santos made up several excuses for why he didn't have the money. According to the Times, Santos would take checks written to the charity and cash them out under his pseudonym, Anthony DeVolder. What's up, Trucker John? How you doing, brother? Good to see you. He allegedly swindled a disabled vet whose dog was dying. Santos also allegedly stole money from a disabled vet who came to him to help fund a life-saving surgery for his dog. According to Patch, in May 2016, Richard Alstoff, who was living in a tent in central New Jersey, learned that his pit mix would need about $3,000 worth of surgery. A veterinary technician told him that the man named Anthony DeVolder could help him raise the funds. After Friends of Pets United put together a GoFundMe that got the money for the surgery, Santos then refused to give the money to Alstoff, whose dog died less than a year later. Santos has denied the story, though FBI is reportedly investigating the matter. I was worried what happened to me was too long ago to be prosecuted. He may have ripped off an Amish dog breeder with a bad check. I mean, the list continues to go on. Political reports in late 2017, a checking account in Santos' name wrote 9 canceled checks to 8 different accounts owned by dog breeders, writing in the memo section puppy or puppies. That November, he was charged in Pennsylvania with theft by deception for alleged crime. Santos claims that the checkbook was stolen and charge was expunged in November 2021 after the old friend helped him out. Go figure. I had a friend that helped me out. What was the deal with his marriages? When Santos flipped New York's 3rd Congressional District in November, he became the first openly gay, non-incumbent Republican elected to Congress. His campaign bio discussed his husband, with whom he lives in Long Island along with the 4 dogs. But Santos never appeared in a campaign trail with his partner, and the Daily Beast could not find marriage records in New York, When he arrived at the house in January, he was not wearing a wedding ring. In 2019, however, Santos did divorce a woman in Queens. I'm very much gay, he told the New York Post in December. I'm okay with my sexuality. People change. I'm one of those people who change. Oh, okay. I'm glad that you changed. It's unclear if his mother's death was related to 9/11. In 2021, George Santos wrote on Twitter in September 11th attacks claimed my mother's life. December 23rd, 2021, he said it was the 5th anniversary of his mother's passing, a loss confirmed in her obituary. On his campaign website, Santos claimed his mother, Fatima DeVolder, was in her office in the South Tower on September 11th, and that she passed away a few years later when she lost her battle to cancer. Aside from the fact that the people rarely refer to 15 years as a few years, there's no record of Santos' mother suffering from well-documented health problems caused by toxic debris following the attacks. There's no evidence she was in the World Trade Center on 9/11. Oh, oops. Just, a little bit of an embellishment. His grandmother was definitely not a part of the Holocaust. In an interview with Conservative Podcast in May 2022, Santos said that his grandparents survived the Holocaust. Oh, okay, hold on. P. Beaver for $5 over on the Rumble side. Thank you so much. 9 logs is quite in a quiet corner. High five for streaming all these clown show entertainment on Rumble. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let's see where it's he campaign bio claim the flood process. Let's see interview with Conservative Podcast in May 2022. Santos said his grandparents survived the Holocaust, and his campaign bio claimed that they fled persecution during World War II. For a lot of people who are descendants of World War II refugees or survivors of the Holocaust, a lot of names in the paperwork are changed to the name in name of survival. Santos told Fox News last year, claiming that he had Ukrainian heritage in his mother's side. Apparently, according to genealogy records reviewed by CNN in the forward, this did not apply to his family. There are no signs of Jewish or Ukrainian heritage and no indication of a name change along the way. Genealogist Megan Solmeniak told CNN, multiple family records show that Santos' maternal grandparents were born in Brazil. The name is common among Catholic families in Brazil. And he did not have employees who died in the Pulse shooting. In an interview with WNYC following his election, Santos said that he lost 4 employees in the Pulse nightclub shooting in 2016, but the Times found that he lied about yet another historic tragedy. None of the 49 victims of Orlando Club worked at any of the companies he was named in the biographies. Jewish or Jewish. Putting aside Santos' Holocaust fabrication, the representatives has also said that a few times over the years that he is a conservative Roman Catholic. On Facebook, his mother posted Catholic prayers and discussed the Virgin Mary, and a priest in Long Island City said that he knows the Santos family well and that they occasionally attended Catholic Mass. I never claimed to be Jewish, Santos said in an interview with the Post, in which he had copped to his lies about his education. I'm Catholic because I learned my maternal family had a Jewish background. I said I was Jew-ish, just slightly Jewish, not fully Jewish, but because kind of a disturbing, gross little thought when it comes down to it. In January, Patch unearthed a Facebook post where Santos from 2001 or 2011, in which he wrote, "Hi, Hitler." A former roommate said that Santos would frequently make anti-Semitic jokes. He would always say that it was okay for him to make these jokes because he was Jewish. Exactly, Gohagen, Jew-ish. Yeah, no, that's not how that works. You don't get to be partially Jewish. Either you're Jewish or you're not, is my opinion. I really don't see how you could actually do, change the wording on it to say, well, I didn't say that I was Jewish. I said that I was Jew-ish, slightly there. I think he's slightly missing half of a brain, and that could be part of the issue. Was he a drag queen in Brazil? As Santos' bizarre scandal unfurled, more figures from Santos' past came forward, revealing details of his life, like Brazilian drag queen Ula Rochard, who claims that she was friends with Santos in 2005 when he was also performing as a drag queen in Rio de Janeiro area. According to Reuters, another friend said Santos aspired to be Miss Gay Rio de Janeiro and that he was regularly participating in drag pageants. Was George Santos on Hannah Montana? Santos' resume inflation keeps getting more absurd. A Wikipedia bio for username Anthony DeVola claims that following a successful drag career, he landed roles in Disney Channel show Hannah Montana in Sweet Life with Zach and Cody. After the stint in TV, Santos' bio then states that he hit the big screen with the role in the movie called The Invasion, starring Uma Thurman, even though Thurman never appeared in a movie under that name. Was he a Broadway producer? During 2022 congressional bid, Santos claimed to some donors that he helped produce Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark in 2011 rock musical, revisiting the plot of the first two movies starring Tobey Maguire. As usual, with Santos, the timeline doesn't really make sense. If we were to take the word for it, this would have been the same time that he was a volleyball star at Baruch College. Really? So the real producers of the play deny the representative's involvement, but Santos picked a strange play to stick his name on. Turn Off the Dark was a notorious flop that was severely delayed, lost millions of dollars, and resulted in several serious injuries to actors. He was also really a journalist in Brazil. In an interview with Curbed, a former roommate said that he had lived with the now congressman back in 2013. Santos was at home all day. At home all day on his computer, just browsing the web, probably chatting with people. At the time, he said that the reporter of the Brazilian media giant Globo, another former roommate, told the Columbia Journalism Review that Santos even claimed to be an executive there, which Globo's director general of journalism said was a lie, pure and simple. His campaign has reportedly caused a lot of trouble. After Santos was sworn in, CNBC reported that the campaign staff member named Sam Meal impersonated the chief of staff and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy during the 2020-2022 cycle to raise money. Further reporting after Talking Points memo showed that Santos' campaign staff was charged a credit card on file for donors without the permission and racked up a huge unexplained expenses and payments to anonymous as well as payments to themselves. Was he the target of an assassination in December? 1 month after he was elected, Santos went to Brazilian podcast Radio Novela Apresenta, informing the host of Portuguese that we have already suffered an attempt in my life, an assassination attempt. Santos was described as mugging in the summer of 2021. when an assailant allegedly took his shoes, briefcase, and watch off of him on Fifth Avenue in broad daylight. MSNBC translated the interview and aired it in January 23rd. And when the network contacted Santos' office for police records of the incidents, they did not receive a response. When was Santos said about his life that is actually true? How was it explained? How has he explained himself? As he claims, Santos is a 34-year-old Republican born in Queens who will represent New York's wealthiest congressional district. Other than that, pretty much everything is under scrutiny. Since his life story was first exposed as a massive lie, Santos has apologized several times, but his most detailed conversation about his past took place in an interview with Piers Morgan, to whom he admitted that he didn't think he would get caught. I ran in 2020 for the same exact seat for Congress, and I got away with it then. He added before doubling down on his false claims that his mother worked in World Trade Center 9/11. What other investigations is he facing? In addition to the Eastern District of New York, he filed a 13-count indictment against Santos in May. He is reportedly being investigated by the Nassau County District Attorney and the New York State Attorney General's office. The focuses of these two inquiries is not publicly known. Days after he was sworn in, the nonprofit Campaign Legal Center also filed an official complaint with the Federal Election Commission, accusing Santos of illegal using campaign funds for personal expenses like rent. On February 9th, the FEC formally ordered Santos to officially declare a run in 2024 because he had reached the fundraising threshold to do so. Otherwise, he must disavow any fundraising coming his way. Representatives Daniel Goldman and Richie Torres filed an official complaint with the House Ethics Committee. The two New York Democrats requested an inquiry to determine if the incomplete picture of Santos' finances in the financial disclosure violates a post-Watergate law on corruption. After a prospective staffer accused Santos of sexual harassment, claiming Santos touched his groin while in Santos' office, he could be facing an ethics inquiry as well. In early February, Democratic Representative Robert Garcia also announced a bill to expel Santos from the House. Now, we just watched the thing: Daniel Goldman, Richie Torres, and Robert Garcia. The FBI is also reportedly investigating his allegedly scheme to swindle a veteran over $3,000 raised by a dying dog, for his dying dog, according to the New York Times. The FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn, and Nassau County District Attorney's Office are following around a dozen leads in their inquiries, including Santos' brokerage of $20 million yacht between two of the donors in the days leading up to the 2022 election. Santos is also faced legal trouble overseas. In January, Brazilian law officials reopened a case against Santos over fraudulent checks used to purchase clothing at Niterói. In 2008, he settled the case in May, admitting to use a checkbook stolen from his mother's employer. He has to pay about $4,878.45 in restitution. Why would they put about if they weren't so exact? Dumb. The watchdog group has encouraged the Health Ethics Committee to investigate Santos' 2012 marriage to the Brazilian woman, during which he appeared to date other people, to determine if he entered into the marriage solely to obtain citizenship for his wife, a crime for which he could spend up to 5 years in prison. Oh, this guy. And then many Republicans don't want him around. A week after he joined the House, Nassau County Republican leaders called for Santos to resign. Several of them. In the House, New York Representatives Anthony D'Esposito, Nick Lalato, Nick Langworthy, and Brandon Williams urged him in January 11th to step down. Santos has resisted these calls, and Kevin McCarthy, who clearly needs every GOP representative he can get, has not yet weighed in, aside from stating that he will not be on the major committees. Look, the voters decide. McCarthy told reporters before deciding to give him 2 committee assignments on January 31st. Santos stepped down from his positions on the House Small Business and Science Committees amid the investigation to his campaign finances. After the State of the Union, Senator Mitt Romney told Santos off, confronting him about being the center of attention. He should be sitting in the back row and staying quiet instead of parading in front of President and people coming into the room. Romney said that the reporters, after the exchange, Santos wasn't fazed, tweeting at Romney a reminder that he will never be president. Days later, Santos said that he had got a warmer reception from Romney's friend, Senator Kristen Sinema, who he claims told him to hang in there, buddy. Senator's spokesperson is now calling that a lie, and that is 2 never spoke. The 2 never spoke. Good night, guys. See you in the morning. I'll be live by noon Eastern time. Sounds good, Div. Love you, dear. Sleep well. Santos was arraigned on May 10th and pleaded not guilty to all 13 charges. He was released on a $500,000 bond while leaving the courthouse. Santos said he has no intention of resigning. This is the beginning of the ability for me to address and defend myself, Santos said, calling his prosecution a witch hunt. Censure the guy, impeach the guy. You got plenty of information on him to actually just do all of that. Get rid of him now. Why are you fucking around with him and allowing him to actually be part of anything? Get rid of him. Get rid of him. Censure him now. Told you, I'm not one-sided on this. When shit hits the fan and I don't like something, I'll call out both sides of the bullcrap. I'll call out both sides for their bullcrap. If they want to actually sit there and do stupid shit, they're going to win stupid prizes. And that's what he's doing. He did some stupid shit. Now he's looking at being censured. If he doesn't get censured and he doesn't actually get further investigated to actually be impeached or removed completely, if he doesn't just step down and resign, I don't see it being the end for him. They're going to actually continue to go after him for any and everything that they possibly can. All right. Well, let's see. Where are we at? Well, 2 hours. Wow. Okay. So there's a few things that we do have to cover because I do have them in the title line. So then Trudeau is booed, and then the train derailments. So let's see here. Where's my Trudeau thing? Oh no. Okay, it seems to not be there. I'm gonna have to try finding this real quick. All right, here it is. Here it is. Trudeau. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau loudly booed at North American Indigenous Games video. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was loudly booed in North American Indigenous Games in Halifax this weekend. The NAIG is a multi-sport event that takes place every few years, bringing together Indigenous youth from across North America to provide a platform for Indigenous athletes to compete in various sports. Trudeau isn't newsworthy. Him being booed is. That's the only part that's newsworthy, is because he's being booed. So it says that he actually, was part of this indigenous culture thing or whatever. Indigenous athletes to compete in various sports and celebrate indigenous culture and heritage. The sports featured North American indigenous games vary, but often include traditional indigenous games such as lacrosse, canoeing, archery, and wrestling, as well as the mainstream sport like basketball, track and field, swimming, soccer, and volleyball. The Toronto Sun said Trudeau was loudly booed as he took stage on Sunday. The Prime Minister tried to speak, but was overpowered by the booing. Yikes. That's just the first 13 seconds of him being booed. Apparently, he got booed for several minutes when it came down to it, and the guy deserved it. The only reason the GOP is keeping him around is because the numbers are so close. No, that's not why. There's several GOP that have actually stepped up and said that they wanted to actually censure the guy. So it's not the reason at all. You're wrong. Obviously, the people do not like this guy. The people hate this guy for what he is, and he needs to be probably removed from his prime ministership and maybe just be, eliminated permanently, or something of that matter. There was nothing else on that. So just a quick little blurb for Trudeau. That's all he gets. That's all the time that he deserves, is just that little itty bitty blurb of knowledge that he is actually existent, and that the people really don't like him. Yep, Canada wants him gone. Says a Canadian. There you go. So then the other thing that I actually had on the docket for something to actually cover was the train derailments. We've actually covered several train derailments over the past year or so. Every single time that there was something of significance to actually cover, we actually on this channel have actually covered every single last one of them in some depth of some sort. There you go. Developing train derailment prompts evacuations in Pennsylvania. 40-car CXS freight train derailed early Monday morning in Pennsylvania, prompting a level 2 hazmat response. As a precaution, homes and businesses in the area are being evacuated. According to Fox News, fuck Fox, that 15 to 20 cars believed to be carrying hazardous materials derailed in the area, prompting a level 2 hazmat response. Police later said that the only material leaking out of the train cars was silicon pellets, which posed no threat to the public. Sure, or maybe not to the public, to the ground? Possibly, especially under the temperatures that the United States is currently going under, with the silicone pellets not just kind of maybe get kind of sticky and melt to things. Maybe. I don't know. Cruiser in the scene responded to the emergency. Now, I know a silicone is used for like making, spatulas and things or whatever for, but they still have a temperature rating. There's still a temperature rating on silicone. So, there's potential of there being other issues when it comes to these silicone pellets. Crews are in the scene to respond to the emergency situation. Police say residents and businesses closest to the derailment site have been evacuated as a precaution. White Marsh Township Police Department shared the following. Train derailment investigation, not rain, train. White Marsh Emergency Services investigating the derailment of a Norfolk Southern train in Plymouth meeting section of White Marsh Township. The derailment is located in the area bounded by the Flowertown Road, Joshua Road, and Stenton Avenue. Precautionary evacuations have occurred at the residents and businesses closest to the scene. It is not believed that the further evacuations will be needed, but we evaluate as we know more. Representative Norfolk Southern and CSX are on the location, as are members of the Montgomery County Department of Public Safety Emergency Response Team. There are no reported injuries and no known hazard to the public. Yet, but for whatever reason, it's actually considered, something that, considerably something that we've seen over and over again happen with more and more trains derailing across the United States. At approximately 4:50 a.m. Eastern today, a CSX train carrying 40 cars derailed around 16 cars on Norfolk Southern tracks near the intersection of Joshua and Flowertown Road in White Marsh, Pennsylvania, while preliminary reports indicate that one car transporting hazardous materials was involved in the incident. So there were some hazardous materials involved in the incident. There's no indication that any leaks or spills of the hazardous material, and there's no injuries to the crew or the train. The local fire department responded and declared the evacuation of just over a dozen homes out of the abundance of caution. This story is developing. So, as things develop, as they actually figure out what's actually caused this particular train accident, for another train to derail here in the United States is kind of scary in itself. Now, we've actually gone to the point of pointing out lack of workers on the trains, not paying it, because you don't have because you have the lack of workers on the trains. Is there a reason that could have actually been stopped if there was somebody actually paying attention? Was it another incident just like East Palestine? Or what it was the cause for yet another train to be derailed? Another one. If it's in pellets, what? I'm picturing it being like the stuff in packaging to keep clothes, electronics, and foods fresh, like silica packs. If it's in pellets and all. I have silicone bakeware. It can get pretty hot. Yes, it can. It can get pretty hot. It can actually, take up to so much temperature if it's actually produced correctly into those particular items. Now, as far as Gohagan saying, it sounds like, like these pellets would be something that they would actually use for like freshness, things or the silica packs. I'm taking it more as like this is like the rough state of silicone, where they would actually take these silicone pellets and they would actually send it to somewhere to actually get molded into the bakeware, the spatulas, the different things that they would actually use the pellets for, to actually turn them into usable items. That's my thought on it. I really don't know. I don't think anybody really does quite yet exactly know what was all on this train, what's actually coming out of it, and where it will actually happen next. I will continue to pay attention to this particular incident to see if there's anything more that actually comes out of it, to see if there were other contaminants that did get spread around. They felt it necessary to go ahead and evacuate over a dozen homes that were nearby, for reasons that they actually found it to be an issue, prompting level 2 hazmat responses. So as far as that goes, there was something that was actually happening, and they were unaware of what to actually do. You can see these tracks that are under here very, very bent. It kind of looks like it had something to do with the tracks and not necessarily just the train. It could be interesting to actually see what does come out of this. Very, very interesting to see yet another train go through these issues as we see it. Mad Core Mofo, what is up, brother? Good to see you. Good to see you. So that was the train derailment. So now I'm gonna see if I can't stop within the next half hour, 45 minutes. I do have a few other things to actually share with everybody that I found interesting, things that were part of previous shows that I've actually spoke on. There's some disturbing things, some scary things, and bumbling Joe Biden. Bumbling Joe Biden. So this lady, Misha, this is the lady that actually was in Georgia that actually went ahead and switched parties from Democrat to Republican. We had covered this story the other day, and you can see what has actually happened to a particular person in that region that's actually just so happens to actually do such a thing. She's being called plenty of names. You Uncle Tom, BITCH, black lawmakers swamped of racist, hate-filled messages for joining Republican Party. Georgia State Rep Misha Maynor is reportedly receiving a flood of messages after defecting from the Democratic Party and joining the Republican Party. Last week, Maynor became the first black woman Republican lawmaker in the history of Georgia State House. Switching parties became necessary according to Maynard because Georgia Democrats crucified her for exercising her own political conscience against the party's wishes, which is when she did not support defund the police and when she supported school choice. Yes, defund the police was a Democrat thing. There's always been a Democrat thing. And you're not going to try telling me that it wasn't them and that it was the Republicans, because that's wrong. It's false. It's always been the Democrat side. They're the ones that all cops are bastards, defund the police, over and over again through the summer of love. We've seen it. We watched it. You're not going to be able to tell me anything different. And then when she supported school choice should always be a thing. You shouldn't be able to force me to put my child in the nearest school. I should be able to put my child in any school I want that I feel is going to actually take care of my child the way it's necessary to take care of him. I don't want you telling me where I can send my child. It's not how it works. Not how it works. Over the weekend, Maynard shared the racist, hate-filled messages that she says she has received since becoming a Republican. One message told Maynard she lives up to the word that starts with an N and ends with an R by just following blindly, and said she is the stain on society that needs to be flushed. That person then called her an Uncle Tom bitch. Another message called Maynard a dumbass Aunt Jemima motherfucking traitor, the self-hating black. I'm not going to say the N-words. It's not necessary, and it's gross and disturbing in itself that anybody would be so racist to go and call somebody any name whatsoever. Ignorance is what that comes down to. Bitch. The person then instructed Maynard to go run for the Republican Confederate district that loves self-hating N-words. One message called Maynard an N-word bitch, which needs to get back on the plantation. How ignorant can you be that you can actually go ahead and you can say such a thing that is as racist as that? Can you see where the racism comes from now? Democrats. Another message called Manor a monkey bitch and a party traitor who joined the Republican Party because Brian Kemp offered you more yams in college. Excuse me? Again, how racist can you be? One person told Manor she needs to put in a camp to re-educate you and to de-enify you because she is a MAGA slave. Excuse me? Excuse me? She didn't want anything to do with that. She isn't a Trump supporter. She had nothing to do with it. Just because you think that everybody that has anything to do with the Republican Party just so happens to like Trump, fuck off. Yet another person told Maynard she doesn't belong in the government. You belong in a field picking cotton, in the kitchen cooking, cleaning my floor. The person who called her a stupid chocolate Jabba, the hut-looking jigaboo cunt. Oh, wow. How many choice words can we use to call this lady names with your ignorance? Another person told Maynard she needs to kill herself. Oh, there you go. That's wonderful. That's choice words there. Anybody that actually says to anybody that they should actually unalive themselves in any way, shape, or form is rude, ignorant, and should shut the fuck up. Maynard responded with a vile message with grace. She told each person that she was sorry and that she felt rage and racism toward her. According to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Maynard's decision to leave the Democratic Party was not the surprise considering how the party had treated Maynard over her refusal to toe the party line and follow established process with the caucus. Political speak for not doing what one is told. Not doing what one is told because she doesn't want to go along with your bullshit. She wants to have her own thoughts and opinions, doesn't let you actually can control her and tell her what she needs to do or how to do it. Well, now hold on, Frog. Don't go too far. Yeah, fuck off. The party's contempt of Maynard, meanwhile, was laid bare in the statement following her, not you personally, in general. I like you, go ahead and just saying. But yeah, it's disturbing and ignorant. Ignorant. How ignorant can Democrat be to go ahead and call somebody names because they don't like what she had done? That she actually has a opinion of her own, can actually use her own brain to actually see how disturbing Democrats really are. Yes, all of them. Every single last one of them. Why? How can I say that? Because I was one once. I was there. I voted for Obama twice. I was there and I freaking went along with all the bullshit, whole line crap, whatever, went along with what everybody else was saying. And then I actually opened up a goddamn history book and I actually learned the truth about what actually did happen. How racist and ignorant can the next person be? I like this lady. She's cool. And I hope that she actually gets her point across and she can actually live up to what she's actually intended to be. A Republican. A Republican. Because that's what she wants to be. She has her own opinion. She can do that. These assholes calling her names up and down because they don't know what else to do is exactly what Republicans do. Call names. Call names. That's all they know how to do. Over and over again. Every single time. Enough with this lady. Enough with this lady. I feel bad for her that she actually had to go through such a thing. That she had to actually realize when she did to actually step up to the plate, do something better than what the Democrat told freaking had to do. The whole Democrat Party needs to freaking go away. Burn yourselves down. Go away. Remove yourself permanently. This is what I'm talking about when it comes down to it. How freaking racist can you be? How racist can you be when you go from that to go to this? This guy, black man in New York City, has failed teachers' test many times, will receive over $2 million in compensation after court determines test was racist. What? It's a teacher's test. You have to pass it to become a teacher. You don't get to just become a teacher without passing the test and then saying, oh, it was racist. Are you kidding me right now? Go pass the test. Study for it. Do what you need to do if that's what you want to be. Otherwise, obviously, you're not intended to be the teacher. A black man in New York appears to have failed his way into millions of dollars. According to the report from the New York Post, he has been awarded over $2 million in supposed lost compensation plus interest after he reportedly failed a mandatory teacher's test that a court later determined was racially biased. On July 5th, Herman Grimm, 64, of Queens, was awarded over $2 million as part of a series of judgments expected to cost New York City perhaps about $2 billion. The judgments stem from a liberal arts and science test, which all New York City teachers and prospective teachers are required to pass in order to receive a teaching license between 1994 and 2014. Between 93 and 95, 90% of white teachers and prospective teachers who took the test passed. White and prospective. Compared to just 53% of the black counterparts, Hispanics test takers performed even worse, passing just 50% of the time. Because of the supposed disparate impact of the test, the class action suit was filed against New York City's Board of Education in 1996. Even after a court ruled in favor of the city in 2003, the plaintiffs refused to give up and eventually secured a victory in 2012 when Manhattan federal judge Kimball Wood claimed the test violated the 1964 Civil Rights Act. The Post reported. The city then repeatedly claimed that it had no control over the teachers' testing, which was mandated by the state. Yes, pass a test. Go study. Quit being ignorant and sitting there thinking that you can sit around on your butt with your thumb up your ass and you can actually eventually get paid to not do a damn thing. Eventually, the city exhausted its resources, and perhaps it will, to continue fighting to stop fighting the lawsuit in November 2021. Just before he left office, Mayor Bill de Blasio earmarked $1.8 billion in payouts in connection to the suit. Thus far, Grimm, who took the test multiple times in the 1990s but never passed, has been granted the largest judgment in the 1990s. Multiple times he tried to take the test and failed. I can't tell you how many times I took them. A lot. Grimm told the Post in an interview with occasionally interrupted with a chirp of smoke detector. He could not provide the outlet with any example of racial bias in the test. He could not provide the outlet with any examples. There were 0 examples. But yeah, okay. Here you go. Because you're ignorant enough. Here you go. You win. I could use $2 million for my failure as well. Yeah, absolutely. Go Hagen. I'm with you on that one, brother. Let's go. I could use $2 million right now. Although several failed attempts to pass the test might have put the teacher's career out of the reach for most applicants, Grimm defied the odds. He opened a preschool business in the mid 90s and kept it open into 2015. He also spent time as a substitute teacher in the city until last year when he passed the current certification exam and became a special education teacher in Harlem. Oh, so you did eventually pass it. So why are you getting this judgment? Judgments may be awarded to as many as 5,200 failed test takers like Grimm. Thus far, about 3,000 judgments have been issued, ranging from a few $100s to Grimm's $2 million. At least 225 awardees have received at least $1 million, and many of these recipients will continue to receive money well into their future, as some judgment and provided recipients with the pension and health insurance once they pass retirement age. In addition to paying out these judgments, the city, funded by taxpayers, has shelled out $8 million in the special master appointed the court to assess and allocate the payments, as well as whopping $43 million in fees and plaintiffs' attorneys. So much money has been spent fighting the lawsuit and now paying out judgments and fees that some argue that the city would have been better off hiring the failed test takers in the first place. All this money for nothing, said Arthur Goldstein, a retired teacher from Queens. I've been teaching in overcrowded classrooms in miserable conditions when we could have had more teachers working. Instead, we just have the city paying money for no reason at all. It's ridiculous. But at least one Brooklyn principal disagreed. The standards are the standards. It shouldn't be based on what would be easy for blacks or whites to hire people who are not qualified and change the requirements because a certain group didn't pass the test is bullshit. And I agree with this guy 100 times over, because you couldn't pass the requirement doesn't make it that it was biased against you. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. Ignorance. Grimm claimed he will put much of his newfound money toward paying off credit card debt. I want to stay as normal as possible. I'm not going to be a millionaire. $2 million and you're not going to be a millionaire? Sorry, bud. You're now a millionaire. And guess what? Pay off all your debts, pay off all your credit card stuff, pay off all the stuff that you need to pay off, and you might as well go run. You might as well go take off, go have some fun with it, because I doubt anybody is really going to actually like the fact that you actually just did this and took the money out of the coffers of New York to actually pay for your failure. Good job. Good job. Ignorant. Oh, let's see. Something let's lighten up the mood here a little bit. Let's have some fun. Bumbling Biden begins to kick podium in bizarre outburst. President Joe Biden engaged in what many observers thought was another round of odd behavior as he prepared to give a speech in South Carolina over the weekend, as noted by Rare. And according to a clip posted online by Republican National Committee's research arm, Biden appears to be kicking the podium while saying, "If you're wondering what I'm kicking here, I'm kicking the stand-in, and it's not working." He then spun around backward and attempted to kick the stand again from that angle. How about that? All right, maybe it'll stand on it. Maybe I'll stand on it. I'll be 6'4", he said after turning back around to face the audience. Biden also appeared to slur his words and struggle to speak, which has been occurring more frequently during his public events. Rare added, when talking about the deficit, Biden began leaning in and delivered a creepy whisper. Biden continues to claim that he reduced the deficit by $1.7 trillion, which is false. The deficit fell because of the expiration of COOF spending. Biden's policies have actually increased the deficit. Go figure. Go figure. Like we all didn't see that happening. Noted RNC research He's lying again. Moody's analytics say the actions in the Biden administration and Congress have undoubtedly resulted in higher deficits, not smaller ones. Later in the speech, Biden can be seen stammering and struggling for words, perhaps because he lost his place with the teleprompter, though the real reason isn't known. We're going to come back and we're going to actually watch these videos. You can see there's 3 of them. Last month, aides of Biden made a frank admission they often have no idea what he's actually referring to when he blurts out his odd sayings. The most recent one came earlier this week when he uttered, "God save the Queen." After his speech about a gun control in interviews with Axios, several aides discussed Biden's wacky phrases, which are often confused with quirky aphorisms, according to the outlet, which simply concludes that it is Biden being Biden. Oh, it's okay. He's just being himself. No big deal. Fox News noted further, Biden bizarrely ended a speech about gun control in Connecticut with the words, "God save the Queen," after noting that he would not be able to shake hands with attendees because a storm was approaching. He also uttered another phrase he once used toward a student who questioned him about his 4th place standing in the 2020 Iowa caucus. "Is that the truth? Now, do not make a lie." As that scene with John Wayne movie, "Don't make me a dog-faced lying pony soldier," Biden said at the time. As a proud Irishman whose ancestors probably weren't fans of the crown, Biden may use the phrase more as sarcasm, Axios claimed. Okay, use some sarcasm when you actually speak sarcasm. Maybe we'll actually take it as sarcasm as opposed to you just actually talking like you normally do. In interviews, one of Joe Biden's aides said in reference to the Queen's remark that still aren't sure what he meant. The weird response once again triggered discussions about Biden's advanced age when it appears to be his deteriorating mental status, because during the same speech, he appeared to need assistance in leaving the stage. The scene has become even more bizarre immediately following the gaffe. Biden seemed unaware of where he should exit, pointing to the people off stage and asking them where he should go. The Western Journal reported eventually an aide came up and helped him off, and Biden awkwardly jogged across the stage to make an exit. Because that's Biden. That's what Biden does. That's exactly what he does. I'm going to actually stop sharing it for a second so I can actually bring it back with audio so we can actually hear these videos. These 3 little videos.
Thank you, Nikki Leonard. If you wonder what I'm kicking here, I'm kicking this stand in. It's not working. Like that. All right. Maybe I stand on here. I'll be 6'4".
Maybe if I stand it, I'll be 6'4".
By the way, parenthetically, I want you to hear about the deficit. I cut the deficit $1.7 trillion in
No,
2
you
years.
didn't.
Nobody's ever done it. Cut the debt 1.7.
No, you didn't. Don't lie to us.
Restore some pride. It matters. The lithium will power components like it's going to be being made in redwood redwood materials here in Charleston. So the company's making the largest investment in the history of the state.
He can't even read straight. He has no clue what he's doing. Hopefully that kind of actually lightened it up a little bit and gave us all a little bit of a giggle. We're actually going to go on to a couple disturbing things. These are going to be very quick. I don't think there's something that we really need to actually delve into. Um, Elderly woman killed after being run over by a man in a stolen forklift at Home Depot parking lot. What? An elderly woman sleeping in her car in a Home Depot parking lot in Waldorf, Maryland, was killed after being chased down by a man in a stolen forklift earlier this month. Bryce Caleb Timothy Brown. I think we actually kind of covered this to a certain extent. It kind of actually goes into it a little bit more. It says Bryce Caleb Timothy Brown, 20, was arrested in connection with the horrific murder. According to the Charles County Sheriff's Office, Brown broke into a Lowe's, stole a forklift, and rammed through the rear gates. Brown steered the forklift into a neighboring Home Depot parking lot where Gloriastine Pickney, 73, was sleeping in her car. When Pickney got out of her car, Brown ran her over with the forklift and killed her. Brown left Lowe's on the forklift, entering the parking lot of the Home Depot and Jefferson Farm Place, where, for unknown reasons, he rammed a vehicle that was parked in the parking lot. A woman who was asleep in the car got out when the forklift struck her car and began running away. The suspect then stole the victim's car. Brown followed her, struck her with the forklift, and ran over her, and then stole the victim's car and fled. Police found Gloriastine Pickney's dead body underneath the forklift. The two were not known by each other, according to law enforcement. Brown has been charged with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, assault, theft, and other related charges, according to the sheriff's office. Disturbing asshole. I'm glad that you're actually being charged. And this is why I actually brought this back up, because I believe the first-degree murder, second-degree murder, assault, theft, and other related charges weren't ever brought up before. For this asshole to go steal a forklift and go run over some poor old lady that was sleeping in her car. Hopefully, what state was this in? Maryland. Hopefully, Maryland has death sentence. Remove this guy from the face of the planet. Speaking of forklifts, I'm on one now. A man would not be pretty sight having a 2+ ton going over it. Yeah, I bet it wouldn't. I bet that would hurt. But that would destroy just about anybody. Speaking about being destroyed, woman killed after landscaper accidentally runs her over with a lawnmower. And she was kind of pretty. It's sad. A vigil was held Friday in California. A woman was fatally run over by a lawnmower in a park July 8th, according to ABC 10 News. Christine Chavez, 27, was sleeping in the grass in the Beard Brook Park in Modesto around noon Saturday, July 8th, when she was apparently cut to pieces by a landscaper and a lawnmower, according to ABC 10 News report. Local police reportedly said that Grover Landscaping Services employee was cutting the grass using a mower hitched to a back of a John Deere tractor. The employee says he saw a body in the area he had already mowed and then called 911. Des Martinez, a formerly homeless person and now CEO and founder of We Are Not Invisible, explained why Chavez was sleeping out in the park in the daytime, saying, "We have to stay up all night because it might be dangerous to sleep at night because you might be raped, stabbed, murdered. Then the daytime comes and time to go to sleep. It's broad daylight. There's there's a lot of traffic, a lot of people per the report. So a lot more people around, a lot more traffic. So it's easier for you to actually go ahead and get the rest and not be afraid that somebody's going to come up and do something to you and not be seen." Police reportedly said the investigation into the incident was complete, but appeared to have been accidental. No charges have been filed at this time. Christina's father, Christopher, said in an interview, "I know that even if you are driving a tractor, you can see even a small rock." It's a lie that they didn't see her, per the Independent. A GoFundMe campaign set up by Esmeralda Chavez read in part, "My father would find pieces of my sister's skull and hair still on the floor and the bones of chopped skin. My dad called immediately to the police. They came again and picked up the rest. Mom came all the way from Arizona and wanted to see her daughter's last moment spot. She and my siblings started finding more pieces. GLS Incorporated released a statement that read, "The part we are deeply saddened by the events. Our hearts and sympathies go out to the friends and family. Grover has provided a counseling service to the operator due to the traumatic experience." Uh, you know, whether the person's seen him or not, is a disturbing and gross instance of this actually happening. It's very saddening to see or hear. It's very gross, and I feel bad for the family. I really do. He didn't see her because he was on his phone. That's a good thought there, Madcore. Looks like Gohagen's with you on that one. He needs to be charged with murder. I mean, maybe. I mean, if I really doubt that he had to have been doing something else where he wasn't paying attention to what he was doing for him to actually run her over and destroy her, chopping her up to bits. Video: bridge worker falls over 150 feet and survives, breaking half of his ribs and fracturing his face. Don't jump from bridges, people. Don't do it. A man working on the Ambassador Bridge between Michigan and Canada survived a 152-foot drop into the Detroit River after plummeting while replacing suspension cables, according to the Daily Mail. The 27-year-old man named Spencer Baker survived the incredible fall, but broke all his ribs in his left side and also fractured his right cheekbone. His whole body is purple, according to the reports, which also said that the impact tore his clothes off. Baker was rescued by a marine loading company called J.W. Westcott, which routinely does man overboard drills and responded to the fall. The force of the impact had ripped most of his clothes off of him, said Sam Buchanan, captain of the J.W. Westcott boat. His work boots were still on him, and his pants are around his ankles. He had his T-shirt on. Buchanan told Fox 2 Detroit. He scrambled out. We scrambled out to our boat, and we got aboard. Myself and 2 crew members, and with the help of the folks in the park, they were pointing to where the man was. Baker, who reportedly would not go into details about what caused his fall, told CTV News that he was just thinking, this is it, man. My life is over. I'm never going to see my daughter again, my fiance. My whole life flashed before my eyes. I remember being in the water and trying to keep my head up on my back, and then I just remembered hearing the people on the boat saying, "We're coming, we're coming." Surveillance video of I'm not going to actually play the video. I can't. Surveillance video of the fall was captured in J.W. Westcott security cameras, and the witness pictured alerting the company after the man plummeted. One of the witnesses saw a woman named Bernita Flowers, who shockingly had lost her partner in 1994 after a drowned in the same river. I brought back a few memories. Yes, it did, Flowers told Outlet. Their daughter, Terry George, who's also a witness for that to happen, it resurfaced everything I thought I was over. George recalled. It shocked me so bad I couldn't believe it was happening in front of my own eyes, she added. Baker will likely be off of work for months and worried that he needs to provide for his family. As such, a GoFundMe page was set up for the family and has surpassed over $10,000. I feel very, very fortunate. I'm so thankful for all the people that ran to help me, rescue me, he added. Very scary very scary, instance of, working on a bridge, doing what you need to do, and then all of a sudden falling over 150 feet into the water. That had to hurt. That had to have hurt so bad when you actually fracture a cheekbone and you actually break ribs, multiples. Very sad and scary, disturbing 152-foot drop. I feel bad for this guy. I really do. He's probably going to be in pain for the rest of his life. He's going to feel that. He's going to remember that. He's going to remember that forever. So I'm going to actually stop sharing the screen for a second. The last one actually does have a video that we're going to share. And then we'll go away. Oops. Oh, come on. So we've seen this kind of stuff happen before. Thank God people were there to save him. Yes, exactly, Suzanne. Thank God. I'm sure his daughter and his fiance will greatly appreciate these people actually saving his life. Fan taking selfie triggers ugly car crash. Ugly crash at Tour de France. So, we've seen this happen before, where idiots go and they try taking selfies. And then they go and they stand out in the middle of the way, and they get taken out in the process of actually causing an accident. A fan attempting to take a selfie caused a pileup and subsequent crash Sunday during the stage 15 of Tour de France. Get off your phone. Watch the fucking bike race, dude. Riders collided around 129 kilometers to the finish line while traveling from Les Gets Les Portes de Sol and Saint Gervais Mont Blanc, according to CNN. One team Jumbo Visma rider Sepp Kuss was put off balance after being distracted by a selfie-taking spectator, Eurosport reported. So here you go. So they put it in slow motion for us, which is wonderful. So this guy right here, right? You can see him. You can see him as he comes rolling up. See this person? See this person's arm sticking out, trying to take a selfie? Yep, idiots. This shit happens all the time. Exactly. Clips the guy. He loses control of his bike and boom, falls, hitting the guy next to him, which actually causes several bikers to actually crash into them and do just the same, causing a massive pileup. How moronic do you have to be to actually go ahead and put your arm out in the middle of a race? Mr. Dumbass taking selfies? Yep, Mr. Dumbass taking selfies. Just another idiot in the world thinking that it's okay for him to actually do such a thing. And it says the arm came out and clipped his shoulder, and down we all came like Skittles. So they just moron. Just look what you did to all these people. Look at that pileup of people that are no longer on their bicycles. This guy looks like he's super hurt. He's curled up in fetal position. He's ready to actually probably cry to mommy. I just fell down. I skunned a knee. Oh, that person's gone to jail. I hope no one got hurt. I mean, maybe, hopefully, there's somebody that was around that actually caught, who actually caused the accident, and that it wasn't the bicyclists that actually just crashed into themselves, that it was some asshole trying to actually take a selfie. All right. Well, all that being said, thank you all so very, very much for being here tonight. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good show. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you didn't like it, hit the like button, leave a comment, let me know what you think I can do better next time. If you haven't done so already, share this out to somewhere where you like to share things, both on the YouTube and Rumble sides. Hit that thumbs up button. Do that stuff for me. Tell your friends where you like to hang out. Tell your friends where you like to hang out, and maybe they'll come out and hang out with you, and we can cause even more of an audience to actually be around. Again, thank you all so very, very much for being here. Love y'all. I'll talk to you later.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Later.